Welcome to So Much Fun. I'm Colleen Murphy and I teach sewing. You know, when you read a pattern and they tell you to do gathering stitches, for most garments that means doing 2 rows of basting stitches. But sometimes you will have a project that will be better to do something other than your 2 rows of basting stitches. An example of that could be a skirt, or it could be a bed skirt. And it also depends on the fabric. If you had to gather something rather stiff, let's say denim, I know that seems unusual, but that could happen. So it's also your fabric as well as the length of your fabric that you might want to try a different approach and find that it might be more successful. And that's what we're going to do today. Before you actually start the machine, you want to check your settings and you want to select the zigzag stitch. And I recommend that you make the width of the stitch as wide as it can be. The length of it, in this situation, I put it at 2.5. But you kind of have to play around with it to see what you like for the length of your zigzag. So I'm not giving you any special number. I'm just saying make it the width of it as wide as the machine will do. The length of it can be arbitrary. Now, use your regular general purpose foot, and you may notice that I'm not doing that, but I like this particular foot for what we're going to do. But a zigzag foot or the general purpose foot will be just fine for your project. I am using a nylon thread. You need to use something that you know would be very difficult to break as you're pulling your fabric. Nylon thread is really a very good thread to use for this. So the nylon thread is going to be what you're going to zigzag over. And I also would recommend, because when you're gathering a lot of fabric, you ought to go ahead and have that edge finished, whether you're using a serger or not. But having the edge of the fabric finished will help from fraying as you're gathering your fabric. So we're just going to put our needle down. And I'm going to hold on to everything right now. I'm going to hold on to my thread from the needle and also the nylon thread. All you're doing here is just zigzagging over that nylon thread. Just making sure you keep the thread in the middle as it zigzags. And you just, as you go, place it so that it stays in the center. And the nice thing about doing this, especially if you have a lot of fabric that you're gathering, if you should happen to run out of bobbin thread, I know I hear students talk about it all the time. Oh my gosh, I ran out of bobbin thread and didn't even know it. Well, that will make a difference if you're zigzagging over your nylon thread. You can just pick right up where you left off. But if you were doing 2 rows of basting stitches, that would be an issue. So I just keep the edge of the foot next to the edge of the fabric, and I go along, because this is all inside your 5/8. And you just go and go and go and go. We don't have to do all of this for you to get the idea. And for those of you who like to sew fast, here's your chance. Enjoy the fact that you can go pretty fast doing this. Now I'm at the end, and I am going to reverse some of the zigzag stitches. All right, and once I've done that, this machine does not cut the sewing machine thread, so I'm going to turn the wheel toward me, raise my needle up nice and high, reach around and raise up the foot, and pull out. And first, I'm just going to leave all of it, long threads for everything like that, okay? And then I can separate out the sewing thread and the thread that I'm going to use for gathering. Notice that I have a pin at the center of the fabric that I just gathered, and then the pin on the base fabric that I'm going to sew to. I need to mark the center points so we make sure that the gathers are evenly distributed. I also put a pin on one end so that I can take that nylon thread and do a figure 8 around it to keep that secure, because this thread is very slick and it will pull out. All right, so we have that secure. So on the other end, I'm going to take my nylon thread and I'm going to pull it. And you're going to see it pulls very easily. Look how that goes. See how that goes? So I'm going to pull it all the way up so that the end will match up with my fabric. And you don't want gathers in your seam allowance. So you continue to gather until the gathers are the same length as the fabric that you're going to sew it to. So I need to do a little bit more. But it moves real easily. And we're still not there. All right, we'll pull some more. And you can see if you have a lot of gathering to do, this is much simpler than doing it with 2 rows of basting stitches. I think I have it just about where I want it, so I'm going to put a pin into both layers of fabric, and then I'm going to take that nylon thread, and again I'm going to make a figure 8. I'm going to take it around that pin to keep that secure. And then all I have to do is adjust my gathers and get them evenly distributed. And when you're sewing, you want to be sewing with the gathered fabric on top, because you want to see that you get these gathers nice and straight and you don't have them going off to the side at an angle. All right, so you'll pin that down in order to keep it in place. And especially if you're using a heavier fabric, this can be rather bulky. And once you're finished, all you'll have to do is release the end of your nylon thread and you can just pull it straight out, and that will take out some of the bulk too. But just pin it fairly close together, not like you normally do when you're pinning your pieces together for sewing. I do it fairly close, 1 inch or 2 apart, so that you can make sure you get your gathers even. I hope this video on gathering using the zigzag stitch has been helpful for you. Please check back with me again, because I plan to do more tips and techniques and have so much fun.